Upon leaving prison, he discovered he owned a ranch in the mountain but upon arriving there, Marcus Carter held the yellowed envelope with trembling hands as the lawyer repeated words that seemed impossible to be true. 15 years behind bars had ended that cold June morning, but freedom had brought a surprise he never would have expected to receive. Dr. Harrison, a man with thick glasses and an impeccable suit, explained the details of the inheritance left by Uncle Edward, a man Marcus barely remembered meeting in childhood. The ranch in the mountains of Colorado now belonged to him, along with all the responsibilities a rural property could bring. "Your uncle left very specific instructions about the inheritance, Marcus," said the lawyer, adjusting his glasses on his nose. "There is a special condition in the will that will only be revealed when you arrive at the property." Marcus ran his hand through his graying hair that had grown during the last months in prison. His orange penitentiary shirt contrasted with the elegant surroundings of the law office. He had no money for new clothes, only the minimal savings he had managed to scrape together working in the prison workshop. "What kind of condition?" he asked, suspicious. "I cannot reveal it now. They were the deceased's express orders. You need to go there in person." The lawyer handed him the keys, the property documents, and a sealed envelope with his name written in shaky handwriting. Marcus vaguely recognized his uncle's penmanship, remembering birthday cards received in childhood. "There is enough money in the account he left to cover your travel expenses," added Dr. Harrison. "The bus to the region leaves at 2 in the afternoon from the bus station." Marcus left the office, carrying an old canvas backpack that contained everything he owned in the world. A few changes of clothes, basic hygiene products, a notebook where he wrote his thoughts, and a yellowed photo of the daughter he had abandoned so many years ago. The photo was the only memory he had of Emily, then only 5 years old. During the bus journey along the winding roads of the mountain range, Marcus tried to organize his thoughts about what he would find at the ranch. The mountains rose majestically around him, covered by a morning mist that gave the scenery a mystical air. He was not used to so much natural beauty after so many years between concrete walls. The bus stopped in a small town called Golden Ridge, where Marcus needed to catch another ride to the property. A gentleman of about 60, introducing himself as Mr. Harold, offered to take him to the ranch by pickup truck for a modest sum. "Are you related to Edward?" asked Mr. Harold as he drove along the potholed dirt road. "Nephew," replied Marcus without going into details. "Good man, that Edward. A shame he left us so soon. But the ranch is being well taken care of." Marcus raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "How so?" "Well, the young woman and the children living there. Edward hired her a few months back. Hard-working woman, poor thing." Marcus's heart raced. No one had mentioned that there were people living on the property. The lawyer had said nothing about caretakers or employees. This information completely changed his expectations about the inheritance. "How long have they been there?" he inquired. "About 6 months, more or less. The young woman arrived in a difficult situation, pregnant and with 2 little girls. Edward always had a good heart, gave her shelter when she needed it most." The pickup truck rounded a curve, and finally the ranch appeared before them. It was a modest but well-maintained property, with a 2-story main house painted white and blue, surrounded by a few smaller structures, a barn, a chicken coop, and what appeared to be a small workshop. The fence marking the property line was in good condition, and there was a well-kept garden in front of the house. Marcus got out of the pickup truck and paid Mr. Harold, thanking him for the ride. He stood at the gate for a few minutes, observing the property that was now officially his. The place conveyed peace and tranquility, something he hadn't experienced in a long time. That's when he heard voices coming from the back of the house, the voices of children playing, and a woman's voice calling for them. Marcus took a deep breath, adjusted the strap of his backpack on his shoulder, and walked toward the front door. Before he could knock, the door opened and a woman of about 40 appeared on the threshold. She had brown hair tied in a ponytail, wore a floral house dress that couldn't completely hide her advanced pregnancy, and her brown eyes stared at him with a mixture of surprise and apprehension. "Are you looking for someone?" she asked, placing a protective hand on her belly. "I'm Marcus Carter," he said, taking the documents from his backpack. "I inherited this property from my uncle Edward." The woman's expression changed instantly. Her face paled and she leaned against the doorframe as if needing support. "What do you mean inherited?" she asked, her voice trembling. "My uncle passed away and left the ranch to me. I have all the legal documents here to prove it." Two girls appeared behind the woman, one about 8 years old and the other about 5. Both had brown hair like their mother and large, expressive eyes. Upon seeing Marcus, they hid behind the woman's legs, clearly frightened by the presence of a stranger. "My name is Rebecca," said the woman, trying to maintain her composure. "I'm the housekeeper here. Edward hired me to take care of the property." "I see," said Marcus, sensing the tension in the situation. "But the lawyer didn't inform me about this." "Edward promised I could stay until my baby is born," said Rebecca, her voice growing firmer. "I have nowhere to go now." Marcus observed the pregnant woman and the 2 frightened children. His experience in prison had taught him to read people quickly, and something in Rebecca's defensive posture told him there was more to this story than she was telling. "We can talk about this," he said softly. "You don't need to be scared." "Mommy, who is this man?" whispered the younger girl, tugging on Rebecca's dress. It's the new owner of the house, Lily," answered Rebecca, stroking her daughter's hair. Marcus noticed how Rebecca's hand trembled as she comforted the child. There were also marks that looked like old bruises on her arm, almost imperceptible but visible to someone who had learned to identify signs of violence. "Look, Rebecca," said Marcus, putting the documents away. "I'm just arriving, and I don't fully understand the situation yet. How about we talk calmly about all this?" "You're not going to kick us out today?" asked the older girl, who Marcus assumed was named something other than Lily. "What's your name?" Marcus crouched down to be at the girl's eye level. "Sarah Grace," she replied, still half hidden behind her mother. "Sarah Grace, I'm not going to kick you out today. Let's talk and find a solution that's good for everyone." Rebecca seemed to relax slightly but still maintained her defensive posture. "You can sleep in the barn tonight," she offered. "Tomorrow we can talk more about the situation." Marcus nodded, understanding he needed time to assess the circumstances. There was something about that family that awakened his instinct to protect, perhaps because of how the children behaved, or Fernanda's visible vulnerability. "All right. Thank you for your hospitality." The barn was a solid, clean structure, with a small space in the back that served as storage. Marcus found some old blankets and improvised a place to sleep. Through the small window, he could see the main house and observe the family's movements. During the afternoon, he saw the girls playing in the yard, while Rebecca tended to a small vegetable garden behind the house. The children seemed happy and carefree when they were away from strangers, running and laughing while their mother worked. At night, Marcus heard sounds coming from the main house. He couldn't quite make out what it was, but it sounded like muffled sobs. Someone was crying, and by the intensity, it seemed to be Rebecca. He lay awake for a long time, thinking about the complex situation he found himself in. The next morning, Marcus woke to the sound of raised voices coming from the front of the house. Through the barn window, he saw a stocky man of about 40 talking animatedly with Rebecca at the front door. The children were inside, but he could see them peeking through the window curtains. The man was gesturing aggressively, and Rebecca stood with her arms crossed, clearly uncomfortable with his presence. Marcus couldn't hear the conversation, but their body language indicated a tense argument. He decided to leave the barn and walk toward the house, feigning casualness. As he approached, he could hear part of the conversation. "You can't keep hiding forever, Rebecca," the man was saying. "The girls need their father." "Not after what you did," she replied, her voice firm but tense. "I've changed. You know I've changed." It was then that the man noticed Marcus's presence. "Who's this?" he asked, staring at Marcus with hostility. "He's the new owner of the farm," Rebecca said quickly. The man looked Marcus up and down, noting his simple appearance and the backpack still slung over his shoulder. "I didn't know Edward had family," he said in a suspicious tone. "I'm his nephew," replied Marcus, staying calm. "I'm Derek, the girl's father," the man said, extending his hand in a forced manner. Marcus shook his hand, feeling the overly firm grip, a clearly intimidating gesture. "Marcus Carter." "Derek, "We've talked about this," said Rebecca. "I don't want you coming here." "You can't stop me from seeing my daughters," Derek retorted. "Yes, I can, after everything that happened." Marcus realized he was in the middle of a delicate situation. It was clear that Derek and Rebecca had a troubled history, and his presence complicated things even further. "Look, folks," Marcus interjected diplomatically. "How about we sort this out calmly? Rebecca, we can talk about the property situation later." Derek glared at him with irritation. "This is a family matter, friend. It's none of your business." "Actually, it is," said Marcus, keeping his tone respectful but firm. "This is my property now, and I have a right to know who's here and why." The tension in the air was palpable. Derek clenched his fists and took a step toward Marcus, but Rebecca stepped between them. "Derek, leave, please." "This isn't over, Rebecca," said Derek, backing away. "You know you can't run forever." He walked to a motorcycle parked at the gate and drove off, leaving a cloud of dust in the air. Marcus and Rebecca stood in silence for a few moments, watching him disappear down the road. "I'm sorry you had to witness that," said Rebecca, seeming embarrassed. "No need to apologize. It's all right." The girls came running out of the house and clung to their mother, clearly frightened by Derek's visit. "Mommy, is Daddy going to take us away?" asked Lily with eyes full of tears. "No, my dear. No one is going to take you from me," replied Rebecca, hugging both daughters. Marcus observed the scene and felt a tightness in his chest. The situation vaguely reminded him of his own childhood, when his parents separated in a troubled way and he felt lost in the middle of the adults' conflicts. "How about we have some coffee and talk about all this?" suggested Marcus. Rebecca hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right. Girls, go play in the backyard while I talk with Mr. Marcus." Sarah Grace and Lily ran to the back of the house, relieved they no longer had to deal with the adults' tension. Marcus followed Rebecca to the kitchen, a cozy space with a rustic wooden table and windows that looked out onto the mountains. Rebecca prepared the coffee in silence, and Marcus took the opportunity to observe the house better. It was simple but well kept, with clear signs that a family lived there, children's drawings on the refrigerator, toys organized in a corner, well-tended plants in the windows. "How long had you known my uncle?" asked Marcus when she served the coffee. "I met him about 6 months ago," replied Rebecca, sitting at the table. "I was in a difficult situation and he offered me shelter here." "And Derek?" Rebecca took a deep breath before answering. "Derek is the girl's father, but our relationship ended almost a year ago. He wasn't an easy person to live with." Marcus noticed how she avoided going into details about the relationship. "And now he wants to come back. He says he's changed, but I don't believe it. Derek has problems with alcohol and," she hesitated, "he's hurt me before." The revelation confirmed Marcus's suspicions about the marks on Rebecca's arm. "Did your uncle know about the situation?" "He did. Edward was a very kind man. When he found me at the Golden Ridge bus station with the girls, with nowhere to go, he offered me work and housing here." "What exactly was the work?" "Taking care of the house, the vegetable garden, the animals. In return, he gave us housing and food. Edward lived alone and said the company was good for him." Marcus took a sip of the coffee, which was strong and flavorful. "And he promised you could stay until the baby is born." Rebecca placed her hand on her belly. "Yes, the baby should be born in 2 months. Edward said I didn't need to worry, that he would take care of everything." "But he didn't leave anything in writing." "No. They were verbal agreements. Edward was always a man of his word." Marcus realized the dilemma he was in. Legally, the property was his, but there was a vulnerable family in need of protection and shelter. "Rebecca, I'm not going to kick you out of here," he said finally. The relief on her face was immediate. "Really? Really? But we need to find a solution that works for all of us. I also have nowhere to go." "You can stay in the main house," she offered. "There are empty rooms on the 2nd floor. I don't want to intrude on your space. I can stay in the barn for now. It's comfortable enough." "Are you sure?" "I am. And you can continue taking care of the house and the garden if you want. I understand that was your work with my uncle." Rebecca nodded, seeming more relaxed. "Thank you so much, Mr. Marcus. You can't imagine what this means to me and the girls." "You can just call me Marcus," he said. smiling for the first time since he arrived at the ranch. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. In the following days, Marcus began to adapt to the ranch's routine. He woke up early and helped Rebecca with the heavier chores, fixing fences, tending to the few animals on the property, and making small repairs to the main house. The girls gradually began to lose their fear of him. Sarah Grace, the eldest, was curious and asked many questions about where he came from and what he did before arriving there. Lily, the youngest, was shyer, but sometimes watched him playfully as he worked. Marcus discovered there was a small workshop on the ranch where his Uncle Edward worked with wood. It was the older man's hobby, and he had left several unfinished pieces and well-maintained tools. Marcus, who had learned carpentry in prison, felt at home in that environment. One morning, while sanding a piece of wood in the workshop, Sarah Grace appeared at the door. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm finishing a chair your Uncle Edward started making," replied Marcus, showing her the piece. "My mom said you're related to Uncle Edward." "I'm his nephew, but we hadn't seen each other in a very long time." Sarah Grace approached and watched his work with interest. "Are you going to live here forever?" The question caught Marcus off guard. He hadn't thought much about the future beyond a few weeks ahead. "I don't know yet, Sarah Grace. Why do you ask?" "Because my mom has been happier since you arrived. She doesn't cry at night anymore." The girl's observation touched Marcus deeply. He hadn't realized Rebecca was going through such difficult times emotionally. "Your mom used to cry at night?" "Yes. She thought I didn't hear, but I did. Especially when Dad came here and they fought." "Does Derek come here often?" "He used to, but since you arrived he only came that one day. Mom said he won't bother us anymore." Marcus continued working on the chair while Sarah Grace watched him. It was comforting to have company, even if it was a child's. The years in prison had accustomed him to solitude, but he found he liked the feeling of belonging somewhere. "Sarah Grace, can I ask you a personal question?" said Marcus. "You can. Do you like living here?" "I like it a lot. It's much better than the house we lived in before." "What was the previous house like?" The girl grew serious for a moment. "It was small, and there was always shouting. Dad drank a lot and got mad at everyone. Sometimes Lily and I would hide in the closet when they fought." Marcus felt anger imagining two small children hiding from a violent father. "And here, do you feel safe?" "Yes. Uncle Edward was very good to us, and now you are too." "I try to be." "Do you have children?" asked Sarah Grace. The question hit Marcus like a punch in the stomach. He stopped sanding the wood for a moment, remembering the photo of Emily he kept in his backpack. "I have a daughter," he finally said. "Where is she?" "I don't know. We haven't spoken in a very long time." "Why?" "I made mistakes when she was little. Very serious mistakes." Sarah Grace stared at him with her big, innocent eyes. "My mom says everyone can regret their mistakes and try to be better. Your mom is a wise woman. Do you regret your mistakes?" "Very much. Every day." "Then you can try to be better too." The simplicity of Sarah Grace's childlike logic brought tears to Marcus's eyes. It was the first time in years that someone had given him hope that he could redeem his past. That afternoon, Marcus decided to fix a fence that was damaged at the back of the property. It was heavy, physical work, but he took pleasure in using his hands to create something useful. During the years in prison, manual work had been his way of maintaining his sanity. Rebecca appeared, bringing him fresh water, and stood watching him work. "You don't have to do that," she said. "I want to. I like to keep busy." "Where did you learn carpentry, sir?" Marcus hesitated. He hadn't told her about his time in prison yet. "In some places I've been," he replied vaguely. Rebecca noticed the evasion but didn't press the subject. "Marcus, can I ask you a personal question?" "Sure." "Why did your uncle leave the property to you? Were you close?" Marcus stopped working and leaned on the fence. "Actually, we weren't. Edward was my mother's brother, but I saw him very little as a child. After I grew up, we lost contact completely." "Then why did he do it?" "I don't know. The lawyer said there's a letter he left, but I haven't had the courage to open it yet." "Where is the letter?" Marcus pointed to the barn. "In my backpack. Ever since I got here, I've been putting off reading it." "Why?" "Fear, I guess. Fear of what I might discover about myself or my family." Rebecca stepped closer and placed her hand on his arm, a gentle gesture of support. Sometimes facing the truth is the only way to move forward. Marcus looked at her, noticing for the first time how her brown eyes had a gentle, welcoming warmth. "And you, Rebecca, are you facing your own truths?" "I'm trying. I came here precisely to escape a life that wasn't good for me. And is it working?" "It was until Derek started showing up here." "Does he have legal rights to the girls?" "Yes, he's their father, even though he's a terrible one. But he never managed to take me to court because he can't take care of them on his own." "And now?" "I don't know. Sometimes I'm afraid he'll show up here when you're not around and try to force me to go back with him." Marcus felt a wave of protectiveness toward Rebecca and the girls. "That won't happen while I'm here. Do you promise?" "I promise." They stood in silence for a few moments, watching the mountains in the distance. The sun was setting, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. "Marcus," Rebecca said softly. "Yes?" "Thank you for staying. Thank you for not kicking us out. Thank you for accepting me here. It's been a long time since I felt like part of a family." The word family came out naturally, surprising them both. They looked at each other, recognizing that something special was developing between them, something that went beyond mere convenience. That night, Marcus finally decided to read his Uncle Edward's letter. He lit a candle in the barn and carefully opened the envelope. The elderly man's shaky handwriting covered 2 pages of yellowed paper. "Dear Marcus, if you are reading this letter, it is because you managed to get out of prison and decided to accept the inheritance I left for you. I know you must be wondering why I chose you to receive my property, since we were not close. The truth is, I always followed your life from afar. Your mother, my dear sister, used to tell me about your struggles and troubles before she passed away. When I learned you were imprisoned, I felt I also bore some blame for never extending a hand to help you when you needed it. This property is my way of giving you a second chance. I believe every man can redeem his mistakes if given the opportunity and determination. The ranch needs someone to care for it with love and dedication. There is something more you need to know. When you arrive here, you will find a young woman with 2 daughters living on the property. Her name is Rebecca, and she is in a very difficult situation, fleeing a violent relationship. I ask that you look after her and the children. They have nowhere else to go and need protection. I know this may be a burden, but I believe you will understand the value of helping those in need. There is a box buried under the 3rd tree past the workshop. Inside, it is enough money to support you all for a few months while you decide what to do with your life. I hope you find peace in this place, Marcus, and I hope you can use this opportunity to become the man I know you can be. With affection and hope, your Uncle Edward." Marcus read the letter 3 times before he could fully process its contents. His uncle knew about his imprisonment, about his mistakes, about Rebecca and the children. Everything had been planned. Even more impressive was the revelation about the buried money. Marcus put on a jacket and grabbed a shovel from the workshop. He easily found the 3rd tree mentioned in the letter, an old, leafy mango tree. He dug for about 20 minutes until he found a metal box buried 3 feet deep. Inside the box were several bundles of money, carefully wrapped in plastic for moisture protection, along with a second, smaller letter. "Marcus, this money is to ensure you and Rebecca have what you need to start a new life. Use it wisely. Edward." Marcus counted the money and was surprised by the amount. There was enough to keep the property running for at least 2 years, plus funds for improvements and emergencies. The next morning, Marcus sought out Rebecca to tell her about the discovery. He found her in the kitchen preparing breakfast for the girls, who were eating bread with jam while chatting excitedly about the birds they had seen in the backyard. "Rebecca, I need to talk to you about something important," said Marcus. "Of course. Girls, go brush your teeth." Sarah Grace and Lily obeyed, leaving the adults alone in the kitchen. "I read the letter my uncle left," Marcus told her. "And what did it say?" "He knew about you and the girls. In fact, he planned this whole situation." Marcus told her about the contents of the letter and the money he found. Rebecca listened in silence, tears in her eyes. "Edward never told me about this," she said when Marcus finished speaking. "He wanted things to happen naturally, but he made it clear he wanted me to take care of you." "And do you want to?" "Take care of us, I mean." Marcus looked at Rebecca, seeing in her not just a woman in a vulnerable situation, but someone who had become important in his life in just a few days. "I do, if you'll have me." Rebecca stepped closer to him, and for the first time touched him affectionately, placing her hand on his face. "Of course we will. The girls already like you very much." "And you?" "I like you too, Marcus. Very much." They were moving in for a hug when they heard the sound of an engine coming from the road. Through the window, they saw Derek arriving on a motorcycle, but this time accompanied by 2 other men. "Oh no," murmured Rebecca, immediately tensing up. "Who are the other men?" asked Marcus. "I don't know, but it can't be good." Derek stopped the motorcycle at the gate, and the 3 men walked toward the house. Marcus noticed that Derek's demeanor was different, more aggressive and determined. "Rebecca!" Derek shouted even before reaching the door. "Get out here. We need to talk." Marcus positioned himself between Rebecca and the door. "I'll talk to them," he said. "Marcus, be careful. Derek can be dangerous when he's like this." Marcus went outside and faced the 3 men. Derek was accompanied by a tall, skinny guy with tattoos on his arms and another shorter but muscular man. "Derek," Marcus greeted coldly. "Where's my family?" Derek asked bluntly. "They are well and safe." "I didn't ask how they are. I asked where they are." "In the house, but they won't speak with you today." The tattooed man stepped forward. "Friend, you don't understand the situation. Derek has rights to his family." "And I have rights to my property," replied Marcus, staying calm. "Your property?" Derek laughed. "An ex-con as a ranch owner? I'd like to see that." Marcus felt his blood run cold. "How did Derek know about your past?" "That's right," continued Derek with a malicious smile. "I did some research on you, Marcus Carter. 15 years in prison for fraud and swindling. Did you think you could fool everyone?" The muscular man crossed his arms, clearly intimidating. "Derek, your background has nothing to do with this situation," said Marcus. "Yes, it does. A criminal like you can't raise my daughters. I'm taking my family away today." "That's not going to happen." "Yes, it is. And if you try to stop it, you'll have problems." The tension was escalating rapidly. Marcus knew he was outnumbered, but he couldn't let Derek take Rebecca and the children against their will. "Derek, let's resolve this like civilized men," said Marcus. "Rebecca is an adult and can decide for herself what she wants to do." "Rebecca is my wife and the girls are my daughters. Nothing else matters." That's when the house door opened and Rebecca appeared, clearly frightened but determined to protect her daughters. "Derek, leave. We've already talked about this." "No, Rebecca, this time you're coming with me. I brought help to make sure there's no trouble. I'm not going anywhere with you." The tattooed man approached Rebecca. "Ma'am, it's best to comply. We don't want anyone to get hurt." Marcus stepped forward, placing himself between the man and Rebecca. "No one is going to touch her." "Marcus, step aside," said Derek. "This isn't your problem. If you're threatening people on my property, it is my problem." The situation was about to spiral out of control when Sarah Grace and Lily appeared at the door, drawn by the argument. Seeing their father accompanied by threatening strangers, both began to cry. "Daddy, we don't want to leave," shouted Sarah Grace. "Yes, you are," said Derek, trying to approach his daughters. "No," shouted Lily, hiding behind Marcus. The children's reaction seemed to affect even Derek's companions, who exchanged uncomfortable glances. "Derek," said the muscular man, "the children are clearly frightened. Perhaps it's better we talk another time." "No, today they're coming with me." Derek tried to push past Marcus to grab the girls, but Marcus physically blocked him. Derek shoved him hard, causing Marcus to stumble and fall. "Marcus!" shouted Rebecca. The children began to cry louder. The situation had become chaotic and emotionally charged. Marcus got up and faced Derek with determination. "You want your daughters? Then prove you deserve them. Stop scaring them and start acting like a real father." "How dare you tell me how to be a father? You who abandoned your own daughter?" Derek's accusation hit Marcus like a physical blow. It was true. He had abandoned Emily when she was little, and now he was trying to protect other children who weren't his. "Derek, you're right," said Marcus, surprising everyone. "I abandoned my daughter, and it was the biggest mistake of my life. That's exactly why I can't let you make these girls suffer. They are my daughters. Being a father isn't just about biology. It's about protecting, loving, and caring. You're scaring your own daughters." Derek looked at Sarah Grace and Lily, who were clinging to their mother, crying in fear. For the first time, he seemed to realize the impact of his actions on the children. I just want my family back," said Derek, his voice becoming less aggressive. "Then change your approach," said Marcus. "Scaring them isn't the way." The tattooed man whispered something in Derek's ear, who nodded reluctantly. "This isn't over here, Rebecca," said Derek. "I'll pursue my rights in court." "Do that," replied Rebecca, "but leave the girls in peace in the meantime." Derek and his companions left, leaving the family shaken but relieved. Marcus embraced Rebecca and the children, feeling a wave of family protection he hadn't experienced in years. That night, after the girls went to sleep, Marcus and Rebecca talked at length on the house's porch, watching the stars in the clear mountain sky. "Marcus," said Rebecca, "is it true what Derek said about you having been in prison?" Marcus sighed deeply. He knew the moment to tell the truth would come. "It's true. I spent 15 years in prison." "Why?" "Fraud and swindling. I deceived many people to make easy money. I destroyed families, retirements, dreams." Rebecca remained silent for a long moment. "And your daughter?" "Emily. She was 5 when I was arrested. I lived an out-of-control life before that. Drinking, gambling, shady business. I wasn't a good father or a good husband. When everything fell apart, my ex-wife told me she didn't want me to be part of Emily's life." "And you accepted that?" "At the time, I thought it was for the best. I thought a child would be better off without a criminal father. Now I realize it was just an excuse to run from responsibility." "How old is she now?" 20. A grown woman who probably doesn't even remember me." "How can you be sure?" "I can't. But 15 years is a long time. She built a life without me." Rebecca held his hand. "Marcus, you've changed. I can see it in how you treat the girls, in how you care for this property, in how you protected me today." "You think so?" "I'm sure. And if you've changed, maybe your daughter can forgive you too. And if she can't, what if it's too late? Then at least you will have tried. It's better than living with regret forever." Marcus squeezed Rebecca's hand, feeling for the first time in years that perhaps there was hope for redemption. "And you, Rebecca? How did you end up in such a difficult situation with Derek?" Rebecca took a deep breath before beginning to tell her story. "I met Derek when I was 19. He was charming, attentive, made me feel special. I got pregnant with Sarah Grace after 6 months of dating. And then you got married. We lived together. At first it was good, but Derek started drinking more and became possessive. When Sarah Grace was born, he became more aggressive." "Did he hit you?" "Yes, mainly when he drank. He always apologized afterward, promised he would change, and I believed him." "And Lily? She was born 3 years later. I thought having another child would make Derek mature, but it only made things worse. He started drinking every day." "Why didn't you leave sooner?" "Fear, mostly. Derek always threatened that if I left, he would make me lose the girls in court. I had no money, no family to support me, nowhere to go." "And how did you manage to leave?" "A neighbor helped me when Derek hurt me badly in a fight. She took me to a temporary shelter in Golden Ridge. That's where I met Edward." "How?" "He went to the shelter once a month to bring donations. He talked to me, asked about my situation, and offered me work and housing here at the ranch." "And you accepted immediately?" "No, I was suspicious at first. But Edward was genuinely kind. He never did anything inappropriate, never pressured me. He just gave me a chance to start over. And now you're pregnant again." Rebecca placed her hand on her belly. "This baby is Derek's too. I got pregnant shortly before I left him. When I found out, I was already living here." "Does Derek know?" "He knows. It's another reason he wants to force me to go back." "And you? Do you want him to be part of this baby's life?" "I don't know. Part of me thinks every child deserves to have their father present. Another part is afraid of exposing another child to the violence." Marcus understood Rebecca's dilemma. It was a situation similar to his own, a child caught between a troubled father and a mother trying to protect them. "Rebecca, can I make a suggestion?" "Of course." "How about we seek legal help? We can consult a lawyer about your rights and the children's. That way you can make an informed decision about Derek having access to the kids. You would do that for me?" "I would. Not just for you, but for the girls. They deserve to grow up in peace. And if the lawyer says Derek has rights over them, then we'll find a way to protect them anyway. There are legal ways to limit problematic parents' access to their children." Rebecca smiled for the first time that night. "Thank you, Marcus, for everything. Thank you for accepting me into your family." "Our family," she corrected softly. They looked at each other, and Marcus felt something definitive had changed between them. They were no longer just two people sharing a property out of convenience. They were becoming a real family. In the following days, Marcus and Rebecca worked together to improve the property and create a stable routine for the children. Marcus used some of the money left by Edward to make repairs to the house and buy supplies. The girls began to open up more to him. Sarah Grace helped him in the workshop and showed interest in learning carpentry. Lily, more shy, liked to sit beside him while he worked, sometimes talking about simple things like the farm animals or her favorite games. One afternoon, while Marcus was teaching Sarah Grace how to use sandpaper, she asked an unexpected question. "Marcus, can you be our dad?" The question caught Marcus completely off guard. "What do you mean, Sarah Grace?" "Derek is our biological father, but he doesn't take care of us like a dad should." "You do." Marcus stopped working and looked at the girl. "Sarah Grace, I care about you all very much, but you already have a father. A father who scares us and makes Mommy cry. Even so, he is your father. But can you be one too? Can you be our second dad?" The innocence of the question touched Marcus deeply. He remembered Emily at the same age, asking similar questions about why he wasn't present. "I can be your friend and take care of you as if you were my own daughters," said Marcus. "How about that?" "Really, of course I can." Sarah Grace smiled and went back to working the sandpaper, satisfied with the answer. Later, Marcus told Rebecca about the conversation. "The girls are getting very attached to you," she said. "I'm getting attached to them too." "Doesn't that scare you?" "A little. I'm afraid of disappointing them like I disappointed my own daughter." "Marcus, you are not the same man you were 20 years ago. How can you be so sure?" "By the way you treat the girls, by the patience you have with them, the affection, the protection. A man who doesn't care about children doesn't act like that. What if Derek manages to take them away? What if I get even more attached and then lose them?" Rebecca came closer and held his face in her hands. "Marcus, we can't live in fear of what might happen. We have to cherish what we have now." "And what do we have now?" "A family. You, me, the girls, and soon the baby. A real family. Even though I'm an ex-con with a terrible past? Especially because you are an ex-con who learned from his mistakes and is trying to be a better person." Marcus kissed Rebecca for the first time that night, sealing a union that went far beyond convenience or mutual protection. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out, now continuing. 3 weeks later, while Marcus was working in the workshop, he heard the sound of a car approaching. Through the window, he saw a young woman getting out of a taxi at the property gate. She had long brown hair, wore simple but tidy clothes, and carried a medium-sized bag. Marcus felt his heart race. There was something familiar about that woman, something that stirred distant memories. When she turned to pay the taxi driver, he saw her face in profile and nearly fainted. It was Emily, his daughter. Marcus ran out of the workshop toward the gate, but stopped a few meters away, unable to move. 20 years of separation weighed like a mountain between them. Emily finished paying the taxi and walked toward the house. That's when she noticed Marcus standing in the middle of the yard, staring at her with a look of total shock. They looked at each other for long seconds without saying a word. Emily had her mother's eyes, but Marcus's facial features. She was a beautiful woman, and seemed confident, very different from the 5-year-old child he remembered. "Marcus Carter?" she finally asked. "Emily," whispered Marcus, barely able to form the words. "So, it's true then. You're living here. How did you find me?" "It wasn't easy. I spent weeks trying to locate you after I learned you had left prison." Rebecca appeared at the door of the house, drawn by the voices. She immediately sensed the tension in the situation and watched from a distance. "Why were you looking for me?" asked Marcus. Because I need answers. I need to understand why you disappeared from my life." Marcus approached slowly, as if trying not to startle a wild animal. "Emily, 20 years, she interrupted, her voice growing harder. 20 years without a call, without a letter, without a happy birthday. Nothing. I didn't know if you wanted contact with me." "You didn't know?" "I was a child. A child can't decide these things alone." The pain in Emily's voice was palpable. Marcus felt as if he were being pierced by each word. "Your mother said it would be better this way." "My mother died 3 years ago, Marcus. And do you know what were practically her last words to me? That I should try to find my father before it was too late." Marcus felt his legs go weak. His ex-wife had died, and he didn't even know. "I'm sorry. I didn't know about your mother." "Of course you didn't know. You weren't present." Sarah Grace and Lily came running from the back of the house, returning from playing in the nearby creek. Seeing a stranger in the yard and Marcus standing oddly still, they slowed their pace and approached curiously. "Marcus, who is she?" asked Sarah Grace. Emily looked at the children with surprise, then at Rebecca in the doorway, clearly pregnant, and finally back at Marcus. "You have a family," she said, more as a statement than a question. It's complicated," replied Marcus. "Complicated? You abandon a daughter and 20 years later you have a new family." "It's not exactly like that." "Then what is it like?" Marcus found himself in an impossible situation. How to explain in a few words all the complexity of how he had gotten there? "Emily, can we talk calmly? There's a lot I need to explain." "I guess so." Rebecca approached, sensing she needed to intervene to break the tension. "Girls, go play inside while Marcus talks with our visitor," she said gently. "But who is she, Mother Rebecca?" insisted Sarah Grace. Rebecca looked at Marcus, waiting for guidance. She's my daughter, Sarah Grace," Marcus finally said. The two girls looked at Emily with renewed interest. "Your daughter? Where was she?" asked Lily. "Far from here, a long time ago." Sarah Grace, always the most perceptive, sensed the emotional tension of the situation. "Did you have a fight?" she asked innocently. "Sarah Grace," Rebecca gently scolded. "Let's let them talk alone." The girls obeyed reluctantly. Rebecca approached Marcus and whispered, "I'll make some coffee for you. Talk calmly." She briefly touched Marcus's arm in support before going into the house with the children. Marcus and Emily were left alone in the backyard, the awkwardness hanging between them like a heavy cloud. "They seem to really like you," said Emily, watching the girls through the window. "They're good kids." "And the pregnant woman?" "Rebecca. It's a long story." "I have time." Marcus pointed to a wooden bench he had recently built under a large tree. "Let's sit. It really is a long story." For the next hour, Marcus told Emily everything that had happened in the last few weeks. The unexpected inheritance, finding Rebecca and the children, the situation with Derek, the discovery of Edward's letter. He didn't omit details about his crimes or about the years in prison. Emily listened in silence, asking few questions. When Marcus finished speaking, she watched the mountain landscape for a few minutes. "So you're trying to be the father to these children that you never were to me," she finally said. "It's not exactly that. That's exactly what it is, Marcus. You abandoned a 5-year-old daughter and are now taking care of 2 girls who aren't even yours." "Emily, I was in a terrible situation back then. I was drinking too much, making horrible decisions, hurting everyone around me. And you think that justifies abandoning a child? It doesn't. It never will. It was the biggest mistake of my life. Do you know what I went through after you left our lives?" Marcus shook his head. "My mother fell into depression. She lost her job because she couldn't concentrate. We had to move in with my grandmother. I'm sorry. I asked about you every day. Where's Daddy? When is he coming back? Why did he leave? And do you know what my mother said?" Marcus didn't answer. "She said you left because you didn't love us anymore, that you had found things more important than family." Each of Emily's words was like a dagger to Marcus's chest. "That wasn't true. I love you, Emily. I always have." What a strange way to show love, disappearing completely. "I thought it would be better for you to grow up without a criminal father." Better for me, or easier for you? The question hit Marcus like a punch. He realized that, deep down, his decision to distance himself had been more about avoiding his own pain and responsibility than about protecting Emily. "You're right," he admitted. "It was selfish of me." "At least you admit it." They sat in silence for a few minutes. Marcus didn't know what to say, and Emily seemed to be processing her emotions. "Emily," Marcus finally said, "I know I have no right to ask this, but is there any chance you could forgive me?" "I don't know. It's a lot to process." "I understand. Do you want to know what my life has been like these past 20 years? Very much. I was a rebellious teenager. I fought a lot with my mother because she wouldn't let me look for you. I had problems with drugs and alcohol in school. I barely graduated. Marcus felt a wave of guilt imagining Emily going through problems that might have been avoided if he had been present. I got better later. I went to nursing school, graduated, got a good job. But there was always a void, a feeling of abandonment that affected all my relationships. Do you have someone special? I've had a few boyfriends, but I could never fully trust any man. I always thought they would abandon me like you did." Marcus realized how his actions had created cycles of pain that extended far beyond the moment of abandonment. "Emily, if I could go back in time." "But you can't. What's done is done. The question now is, what do we do from here? What do you want to do?" "I don't know yet. I came here angry, wanting to yell at you, confront you about everything that happened. But seeing you here, taking care of this family, did it change anything? Maybe. You seem different from the man I remembered." "I am different. Prison made me rethink a lot about my life. And these children, do you really care about them?" "Very much. More than I ever imagined I could." "Why?" "Because they're someone else's children and that's easier." Marcus thought carefully before answering. "No. Because they gave me the chance to try to be the father I should have been with you." "That doesn't erase what you did to me." "No, nothing can erase it. But maybe it can show I've learned from my mistakes." Rebecca appeared in the doorway of the house and waved discreetly, indicating that the coffee was ready. Marcus waved back, signaling they'd be there in a few minutes. "Rebecca seems like a good woman," said Emily. "She is. She's been through a lot of hard things, but she's a strong and kind person. Do you love her?" "I think so. It's different from anything I've ever felt before." "Different how?" "More mature, more genuine. It's not based just on passion or convenience. It's based on mutual care, on building something together." "And does she know about me?" "She does. I told her about you from the first day." "What did you say?" "That I abandoned my daughter when she was 5, and that it was the worst thing I've ever done in my life." "At least you were honest." "Rebecca told me I should try to find you, that it's never too late to try to make things right." "And is that why you didn't look for me before she said that?" Marcus thought about the question. "I guess so. I was afraid of your rejection, afraid to open old wounds, afraid to find out how much my absence had hurt you. Well, now you know." "Yes, and it's worse than I imagined." Marcus, can I ask a hard question? Of course. If I hadn't shown up here today, would you have looked for me eventually? Marcus was silent for a long moment, reflecting honestly on the question. I don't know, he finally admitted. I hope so, but I can't be sure. Cowardice was one of my biggest traits. At least you're honest about that too. Emily, what can I do to start fixing things between us? I don't know if they can be fixed, Marcus. 20 years is a long time. We're practically strangers now. Can we try to get to know each other again? Maybe, but it will take time, and it won't be easy. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Even if it means facing all the consequences of what you did. Even if I ask you hard questions and confront you with the pain you caused. Yes, I deserve that and more. Emily studied him for a few seconds. All right, we can try, but with conditions. What conditions? First, total honesty. No lies or half-truths to protect me or yourself. I accept. Second, you need to tell me about all these years. What you did in prison, how you got here, everything. I accept. Third, I want to know about your current life. This woman, these children, how you live now. Of course. And fourth, if at any point I decide I can't forgive you, you accept my decision without trying to persuade me. Marcus hesitated at this last condition. The idea of losing Emily again was terrifying. I accept, he finally said. Then we can try. They walked toward the house where Rebecca had prepared coffee with homemade cookies. The girls were in the living room, playing with dolls, but clearly interested in the mysterious visitor. Girls, said Marcus, come meet my daughter. Sarah Grace and Lily approached timidly. What's your name? Asked Sarah Grace. Emily. Do you live far away? I do, in Denver. Why didn't you visit Marcus before? Sarah Grace, Rebecca interjected gently. How about we let Emily have her coffee first? Emily smiled at the girls. It's okay, she can ask. It's a long story, but Marcus and I hadn't seen each other for a long time. Why? Because sometimes adults do things that drive them apart. But have you made up now? Emily looked at Marcus. We're trying. During coffee, Emily closely observed the interactions between Marcus and the children. She could see his genuine affection for the girls and how much they trusted him. It was painful to realize that other children received the paternal love she never had, but at the same time comforting to see that he had learned to be a present father. Marcus told me you went through difficult times before coming here, said Emily to Rebecca. Yes, it was a complicated period, but Marcus helped us a lot. How? He gave us security, stability, and most importantly, he showed the girls how a man can be kind and protective. Sarah Grace, who was listening to the conversation, approached Emily. Marcus is teaching us how to make things out of wood, she said excitedly. Really? Want to see I made a little birdhouse? Emily looked at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. Of course I want to see. Sarah Grace picked up a small birdhouse painted blue and yellow, clearly made with help but showing the child's effort. It's beautiful, said Emily sincerely. Marcus said when I grow up I can be a carpenter too. And do you want to? I do. It's cool to make things with your own hands. Emily felt a pang of sadness imagining what it would have been like to have those experiences with her own father as a child. After coffee, Marcus showed Emily the property. They walked through the gardens, visited the workshop, saw the animals. Emily could notice the care with which he kept everything organized and functional. Do you like living here? She asked. I do. It's the first time in a long time I feel like I belong somewhere. And before prison, did you feel like you belonged somewhere? No, I was always running from something. Responsibilities, problems, consequences. Including from me. Including from you. They arrived at the small cemetery at the back of the property, where Edward was buried. Your uncle seems to have been a special man, said Emily, reading the simple headstone. He was. Even though I didn't really know him, he gave me a second chance when no one else would. Why do you think he did that? The letter he left said he believed in the possibility of redemption for anyone. Do you believe that? Now I do. Before, I didn't. What made you change your mind? This family. seeing how I can make a difference in the lives of people who trust me, and you being here today too. Me? Yes. The fact that you looked for me means there's a part of you that still believes our relationship can be recovered. Or it means I needed closure to move on with my life. It could be that too. When they returned to the house, the sun was beginning to set. Emily realized she had spent the entire day there without noticing how time had flown. "I need to go," she said. "I have to work tomorrow." "You can stay for dinner," offered Marcus. "No, but thank you. I need to process everything we talked about today. Can I take you to town? I already called a taxi." "Emily, will you come back?" "I don't know yet. I need to think." "Can I call you?" "You can." She wrote the phone number on a piece of paper and handed it to him. "Marcus," she said before leaving, "thank you for being honest with me today. Thank you for giving me a chance to explain. One chance, Marcus. Just one chance. Don't ruin it." The taxi arrived and Emily quickly said goodbye to Rebecca and the girls. When the car disappeared down the road, Marcus stood at the gate for a long time, processing everything that had happened. Rebecca approached and placed a hand on his shoulder. "How are you?" she asked. Confused, relieved, scared, hopeful, all at the same time. "She seems like a strong woman." "Yeah, just like her mother." "Do you think she'll be able to forgive you?" "I don't know. But at least now I have the chance to try to earn forgiveness." That night, after the girls went to sleep, Marcus and Rebecca talked about the meeting with Emily. "How do you feel knowing I have an adult daughter?" asked Marcus. "It's strange, but not necessarily bad. Actually, it might be good for the girls to have an older sister." "Do you think Emily might accept you?" "I don't know. It must be hard for her to see you taking care of other children after not taking care of her." "That's exactly how she feels. I can understand. But maybe with time she'll realize you can build a bigger, closer family. Would you be okay with that, including Emily in our family?" "If she wants to be included, of course. The more love in this house, the better." Marcus hugged Rebecca, feeling a wave of gratitude for having found such an understanding and generous woman. "And if she doesn't accept our family?" asked Marcus. "Then you'll have to choose how to divide your time between her and us." "I don't want to have to choose." "Maybe you won't have to. Maybe she just needs time to get used to the idea." 3 days later, Marcus called Emily as he had promised. "Hello," she answered. "Emily, it's Marcus." "Hi, how are you?" "Good. And you? Were you able to process our conversation?" "A little. It's still a lot." "I understand. Have you thought about whether you want to stay in touch?" "I have. And I want to try. But slowly. However you want." "Marcus, can I ask a question?" "Of course. That woman, Rebecca, do you plan to marry her? We haven't talked about it officially yet, but yes, I would like to. And the girls, do you consider them your daughters?" "I do. Not biologically, of course, but in my heart." "I see. Does that bother you?" "A little, but I'm trying to understand that the fact you take care of them doesn't take away from what I should have received from you." "That's right. One thing has nothing to do with the other." "Marcus, can I visit you again this weekend?" Marcus's heart raced. "Of course, that would be great. But I want you to tell me more about the years in prison this time. I want to understand how you changed." "Okay, I'll tell you everything. And I want to spend more time with the girls and with Rebecca. If we're going to try to be a family, I need to get to know them better." "They'll love that." "Marcus?" "Yes?" "Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I was harsh with you. Thank you for giving me a second chance I didn't deserve." When Marcus hung up the phone, Rebecca was in the kitchen preparing dinner. "Was it good news?" she asked. "The best possible. Emily wants to try to build a relationship with us." "With us?" "That's right, she wants to get to know you better if we're going to be a family." Rebecca smiled widely. "So we're going to have an even bigger family." "It seems so." Sarah Grace came running into the kitchen. "What are you talking about, a bigger family?" "Emily is going to come visit us this weekend," explained Marcus. "Cool. Can I show her more things?" "Of course you can. And is she going to live with us?" Marcus and Rebecca exchanged a look, realizing the situation was getting more complex. "No, Sarah Grace," said Marcus. "Emily has her own life in another city, but she's going to come visit us. Why doesn't she come live here? There's room. Because she has a job where she lives. But it would be cooler if she lived here." "It would be," agreed Marcus, "but sometimes people need to live in different places." Lily, who had been listening to the conversation, approached. "Marcus, is Emily going to be our sister?" "Well, she's my daughter, so she would be like an older sister to you." "That's so cool." "I always wanted an older sister." The girl's excitement about having Emily as part of the family moved Marcus deeply. It was exactly the opposite of what he was afraid would happen. The following Saturday, Emily arrived earlier than the first time, carrying a small suitcase. "Can I sleep here tonight?" she asked. "I want to spend more time getting to know everyone." "Of course," said Marcus. "You can stay in the guest room." This time the girls weren't shy around Emily. Sarah Grace immediately took her by the hand and started showing her every corner of the property, while Lily followed them, talking about her favorite animals. "Emily, do you know how to make a birdhouse?" asked Sarah Grace. "No, I never learned." "Marcus can teach you too." Emily looked at Marcus with an expression that was hard to decipher. "Would you like to learn?" he asked tentatively. "Actually, yes. I always wanted to learn crafts, but I never had the chance." They spent the afternoon in the workshop, with Marcus teaching Emily and the girls how to use different tools and basic woodworking techniques. It felt surreal for Marcus to be there teaching his adult daughter things he could have taught her as a child. "Why did you learn woodworking in prison?" asked Emily, while sanding a piece of wood. "It was a way to keep myself busy and sane, and I also learned that working with my hands gave me a sense of purpose." "Did you like your life before prison?" "I thought I did, but it was actually an empty life. I was just chasing easy money and immediate pleasure." "And in prison?" "At first it was terrible, depression, anger, fear. But after a few years I started participating in rehabilitation and therapy programs." "What kind of therapy?" "Group therapy for people who had committed financial crimes. We had to face the impact of our actions on the victims." "What was that like?" Marcus stopped working and looked at her. "Devastating. We had to read letters from people who lost their life savings because of our crimes." "And how did you feel?" "For the first time, I truly understood the weight of my actions. They weren't just numbers in a bank account. They were destroyed lives, shattered dreams, broken families." "Did that include our family?" "It included our family." Emily nodded, satisfied with the honesty of the answer. "Was that when you decided to change?" "It was the beginning, but real change took years. I had to learn to be responsible for my actions, to think about the consequences of my choices, to value genuine relationships instead of just opportunities." "And do you think you really changed?" Marcus looked out the workshop window and saw Rebecca in the garden, tending to the plants while speaking lovingly to her belly. "I think so. But it's not for me to judge that. It's for the people who are affected by my actions now." "Like me?" "Like you." Emily continued working on the wood for a few minutes before speaking again. "Marcus, can I tell you something about my life?" "Of course. When I was a teenager, I started having problems with alcohol and drugs." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Really?" "Yes. And you know why?" "Why?" "Because I wanted to feel how you felt. I wanted to understand what kind of feeling was more important than taking care of your own daughter." Marcus stopped working completely, feeling as if he'd been punched. "Emily, I used to drink until I blacked out and woke up remembering nothing, thinking, is this what my father felt? Is this why he abandoned me? My God. I almost died a few times. Overdose, accidents. My mother was desperate." Marcus sat down in a chair, feeling his legs go weak. "How did you get out of it?" "Rehab, therapy, a lot of psychological work, and mostly the support of my mother, who never gave up on me. Just like Uncle Edward never gave up on me." "Exactly, but it took me years to understand that my problems weren't really about you. They were about my own pain and my own inability to deal with abandonment." Marcus had tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry, Emily. I'm so sorry my actions caused you so much suffering. I know you are, and that's why I'm here trying to build something new with you." "Did you manage to overcome the problems with alcohol and drugs?" "I did. I've been sober for 8 years. How did you manage it?" "Therapy, support groups, and mostly finding purpose in my profession. Working as a nurse gave me a reason to take care of myself. I can't take care of other people if I'm not well." Marcus stood up and for the first time hugged his daughter. Emily was tense at first, but gradually relaxed and returned the hug. "I'm sorry," whispered Marcus. "I'm sorry for everything." "I know," she whispered back. When they separated, both were crying. Sarah Grace, who had gone out to play in the backyard, came back and saw them. "Why are you crying?" she asked worriedly. "Sometimes adults cry when they're feeling better about things that made them sad," explained Emily, drying her eyes. "Oh, like when I cry when I make up with Lily after a fight?" "Exactly like that." Sarah Grace nodded, satisfied with the explanation, and went back to playing. "She's a very smart girl," said Emily. "She is. And very empathetic too. Both of them seem to be. Rebecca raised them well. Rebecca is an amazing mother. Marcus, can I ask you a personal question about her?" "Go ahead. Do you truly love her, or are you with her because you need a family?" Marcus thought carefully before answering. "In the beginning, I think it was a bit of both, but now I know I truly love her." "How do you know?" "Because when I think about the future, I can't imagine a life without her. And it's not because I'm afraid of being alone, it's because she makes me want to be a better person every day." "And the girls?" "I love them as if they were my own daughters. I know that might be strange for you to hear. It's strange, but not necessarily bad. In fact, it's comforting to know you've developed the capacity to love children. Do you think you can learn to like them too?" "I already like them. They're lovely children. The question is whether I can accept that you have responsibilities with them now." "And can you?" "I'm trying, as long as it doesn't mean you have less time or love available to rebuild our relationship." "It doesn't. There's enough love for everyone." That night, during dinner, Emily told stories about her work as a nurse, keeping the lighter and more interesting parts for the children. She talked about newborn babies she helped care for, about elderly patients who told fascinating stories from their lives, about the satisfaction of helping people in difficult times. "Do you like being a nurse?" asked Rebecca. "I love it. It's a profession that gives me a lot of meaning." "Did you always want to be a nurse?" "Actually, no. When I was young, I wanted to be many things, an artist, a writer, a teacher. But I ended up choosing nursing because I wanted to do something that really made a difference in people's lives." Marcus realized the irony. Emily had chosen a profession dedicated to caring for others, perhaps as a way to compensate for the care she didn't receive as a child. "And you, Rebecca?" asked Emily. "What did you do before coming here?" "I worked in a clothing store. It wasn't exactly my dream, but it paid the bills." "What was your dream?" Rebecca smiled shyly. "I always wanted to have my own business, something related to cooking or crafts." "Why not try now?" "I don't know. With the girls, the pregnancy, this whole situation with Derek." "Does Derek still bother you?" asked Emily. Marcus and Rebecca exchanged a glance. "Sometimes," admitted Rebecca. "He shows up from time to time, always with legal threats, but he never does anything concrete." "Does he have rights over the children?" "He does, but he's never exercised them responsibly. The girls are afraid of him." "And what about the baby that's on the way?" Rebecca placed a hand on her belly. "I don't know what will happen. Derek knows he's the father, but I don't know if I want him involved in raising the child." "Have you consulted a lawyer yet?" "Not yet," said Marcus, "but I was planning on doing that. I can recommend a good lawyer in Denver. He handles family law cases and can advise you on how to protect the children." "Really? That would be very helpful." "Of course, I'll give you his contact." During the conversation, Marcus noticed how natural it was for Emily to offer practical help to the family. She wasn't just trying to accept the situation, she was actively looking for ways to contribute. After the girls went to sleep, the 3 adults stayed on the porch talking and watching the stars. "Emily," said Marcus, "can I ask a question that might be uncomfortable?" "Go ahead." Do you have a boyfriend, someone special in Denver? Why do you want to know? Paternal curiosity, and because I want to know about your life. Emily smiled. No, I don't have a boyfriend at the moment. Why not? I've told you about my issues with trust in relationships. I'm working on it in therapy, but it's still hard for me to open up completely to someone. Are you still in therapy? Yes, once a week. It helps me a lot to process issues from the past and make decisions about the future. How is your therapy helping you deal with our situation? My therapist encouraged me to look for you. She said I needed to face this issue to be able to move forward with my life. And now? What does she think about what's happening? We haven't had a session since I first came here, but I'm sure she'll be surprised by how much you've changed. In what sense? When I talked about you in therapy, it was always as an irresponsible, selfish man who had abandoned me. But the man I found here is caring, present, concerned about the people around him. Do you think I've really changed, or am I just putting on an act? At first I thought it might be an act, but after observing how you interact with the girls when you think no one is paying attention, I realize it's genuine. How so? Yesterday afternoon, when you were fixing Lily's dollhouse. You didn't know I was watching from the window. I saw the care you took with your work, the patience you had when the doll didn't fit in the house, how you arranged everything with tenderness. It wasn't to impress anyone. It was just you being a present father. Marcus felt a warmth in his chest upon hearing these words. And how does that make you feel? Confused, to be honest. Part of me is happy to see that you've learned to be a good father. Another part gets sad thinking about how my childhood could have been different if you had been like this with me. And which feeling is stronger? It's changing. At first it was more sadness and anger, but gradually it's becoming more hope that we can build something good from here on out. Rebecca, who had been silent listening to the conversation, finally spoke. Emily, can I say something? Of course. You have every right to be angry and hurt, but I also want you to know that your father talks about you every day since I've been here. Talks about what? About his regret for missing your childhood, about how he wishes he could fix things, about how proud he would be of the woman you've become even without his help. Marcus looked at Rebecca with gratitude for her words. It's true, he said. Not a day goes by that I don't think about you and everything we lost. And not a day goes by that I don't wonder what it would have been like to have had a present father, answered Emily. But perhaps now we can create new memories that don't erase the past, but that build a better future. Would you be open to that? Asked Marcus. I am open, otherwise I wouldn't be here. The next morning, Sunday, Emily stayed to help with breakfast and play with the girls before returning to Denver. Sarah Grace, said Emily, while helping the girl make pancakes. Can I tell you a secret? Yes. I never learned to cook properly when I was a child. My mother always did everything herself. Why? Because she thought I was too little and I might get hurt. But cooking is fun. Mom Rebecca always lets us help. How lucky you are. Marcus said you can come visit us whenever you want. And would you like that? Yes. You can teach us about nursing work, and we can teach you about the farm. Emily smiled, touched by the child's generosity. That sounds like a great deal. Emily, said Lily, who had overheard the conversation, are you going to be our big sister? Would you like me to be? Yes, we've never had a big sister. Then I can be if Marcus agrees. Marcus, who was setting the table, heard the conversation. Of course I agree, he said. It would be an honor to have you as sisters. When it was time for Emily to leave, the goodbyes were much warmer than on the first visit. Marcus, she said, hugging him, thank you for this weekend. Thank you for giving our family a chance. Our family, she repeated, trying out the words. It still sounds strange, but good. Are you coming back next week? Asked Sarah Grace. I'll try, but I might not be able to come every week because of work. But you'll keep visiting us. I will, I promise. Emily, said Rebecca, thank you so much for giving Marcus this opportunity. I know it's not easy for you. Thank you for taking such good care of him. I can see you truly love each other. We do. And thank you for accepting me as part of your family. You will always be welcome here. When the taxi arrived, Emily said goodbye to everyone and waved from the window as the car disappeared down the road. "Marcus," said Sarah Grace, "now we have an even bigger family." "That's true," agreed Marcus, feeling a deep happiness. "A much bigger family." That night, after the children were asleep, Marcus and Rebecca talked about how the weekend had gone. "How do you feel about all this?" asked Rebecca. "Better than I ever imagined possible. Emily is really giving us a chance to build something together." And the girls liked her very much. They did. It's amazing how easily children accept new family members. It's because they intuitively understand what love is. They don't get hung up on complications from the past like adults do. "Rebecca, can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "How do you feel about sharing my attention with Emily?" "I don't feel like I'm sharing. I feel like our family is growing, and that's good. Even knowing I'll need to dedicate time to rebuilding my relationship with her." "Marcus, I want you to be happy and whole. If that means having your daughter back in your life, then that's what I want too. And if she wants me to spend more time in Denver, if she suggests I move there, then we'll talk about it when it happens. But for now, it seems she's willing to adapt to our life here. You are an amazing woman, Rebecca, and you are a man who deserves a complete and happy family." They embraced, feeling they were truly building something solid and lasting together. Over the following weeks, Emily began visiting the ranch regularly. Sometimes she stayed just a day, sometimes the entire weekend. Gradually, she integrated into the family's routines and formed genuine bonds with Rebecca and the girls. Emily also kept her promise to recommend a lawyer to handle the legal situation involving Derek. The lawyer advised them to document all of Derek's threatening appearances and helped Rebecca obtain a protective order that limited his access to the children. 1 month after starting her regular visits, Emily made a surprising revelation during dinner. "Everyone," she said, "I have some news for you." "What news?" asked Sarah Grace excitedly. "I managed to get a transfer to work at the hospital in Boulder. It's 2 hours from here, but much closer than Denver." Marcus nearly dropped his fork. "Really?" "Really. It will be a fresh start, but I want to be closer to family." "And when will that happen?" "Next month." Rebecca smiled broadly. "That's wonderful, Emily." "Is Emily going to live here with us?" asked Lily. "No, sweetie. I'm going to rent an apartment in Boulder, but I'll be able to visit you all much more often." "And maybe we can visit you in the new city too," suggested Marcus. "That would be great. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Emily's move closer was an important milestone in the family's rebuilding. With her just 2 hours away, visits became more frequent and spontaneous. Sometimes she would just show up for Sunday lunch. Other times, she would spend the whole day helping with projects on the farm. It was during one of these visits that a particularly significant moment occurred. Marcus was teaching Emily and the girls how to plant tomatoes in the vegetable garden when Sarah Grace made an innocent observation. "Marcus," she said, "now that Emily lives so close, our family is complete, right?" Marcus looked around. Rebecca sitting in a garden chair, resting because of her advanced pregnancy, the 2 girls dirty with soil but happy, and Emily by his side patiently learning how to plant seeds. "I think so, Sarah Grace," he said. "Our family is complete." "Almost complete," corrected Rebecca, placing a hand on her belly. "We're still waiting for the baby." "That's right," said Lily. "When the baby is born, we'll be an even bigger family." Emily looked at Marcus and smiled. "Dad," she said, using the word for the first time since childhood. Marcus felt his eyes fill with tears. "What?" "I said Dad. It's still strange, but I feel like I can try to use that word again." Marcus dropped the gardening tools and hugged Emily, this time without hesitation from either side. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for giving me the chance to be your father again. Thank you for becoming a man who deserves to be called father." The girls watched the scene, moved, and Rebecca wiped her eyes, touched by the reconciliation between father and daughter. 2 months later, during a night of a particularly intense storm, Rebecca went into labor 3 weeks early. The roads were blocked by fallen trees, and there was no way to reach the hospital in time. Marcus called Emily in a panic. "Emily, Rebecca is in labor and we can't get out of here because of the storm." "Calm down, Marcus. I'll guide you over the phone. I'm a nurse, remember. I've assisted with several births. But what if something goes wrong? Let's hope everything goes well. Now tell me, how many minutes apart are the contractions?" With Emily guiding over the phone and a retired neighbor who had experience as a midwife, Marcus helped Rebecca throughout the entire labor. It was an intense and frightening experience, but also deeply connecting. "Marcus," said Rebecca during a particularly strong contraction, "if anything happens to me—" "Nothing will happen to you," he interrupted. "But if it does, take good care of the girls and the baby. We'll take care of them together, all of us." At 5 in the morning, after 12 hours of labor, a healthy, strong boy was born. Marcus cut the umbilical cord, guided by Emily on the phone, officially welcoming the newest member of the family. "What will you name him?" asked Emily when she finally managed to get to the ranch a few hours later. "Edward," said Marcus, "after my uncle." "Edward Carter," added Rebecca. "It's perfect," said Emily, holding her nephew for the first time. Sarah Grace and Lily were fascinated by the baby. "He's so tiny," said Lily. "All babies are born small," explained Emily, "but he'll grow very fast." "And will he play with us when he grows up?" asked Sarah Grace. "Yes, he will. You'll teach him many things." Marcus watched Emily with the baby in her arms and had a profound realization. She would be a wonderful aunt to Edward, and perhaps one day, an equally wonderful mother to her own children. The cycles of abandonment that had marked their family were finally being broken. A week after Edward's birth, Derek showed up at the ranch unannounced. This time he was alone and seemed calmer than in previous visits. "Rebecca," he said when she answered the door with the baby in her arms, "can I talk to you?" "Marcus!" called Rebecca. Marcus appeared quickly, positioning himself protectively. "Derek," he greeted coldly. "Marcus, relax. I come in peace. I just want to see my son." "How do you know it's your son?" "Rebecca was pregnant when she left home. I'm not good at math, but I can count." Rebecca exchanged a look with Marcus. "You can see him," she said, "but the girls stay inside." "All right." Derek approached and looked at the baby. For a moment, his hardened expression softened. "He's handsome," he said. "Looks like me when I was little." "Derek," said Marcus, "if you want to be part of this baby's life, you'll have to change your behavior completely." "I know." "What do you mean, you know?" Derek sighed deeply. "I entered a treatment program for alcoholism 2 months ago. I'm attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and going to therapy." Rebecca stared at him in surprise. "Why?" "Because I realized that if I continue the way I was, I'll lose all my children forever, and they don't deserve a father like I've been." "And how do we know you're telling the truth?" asked Marcus. Derek pulled some papers from his pocket. "Here are the treatment records, and here's my psychologist's number. You can call to confirm." Marcus and Rebecca examined the documents. They seemed legitimate. "Derek," said Rebecca, "even if you are really changing, I can't let you take the girls until I'm sure they're safe with you. I understand. I didn't come here to take anyone. I came to ask for a chance to prove I can be a better father." "What kind of chance?" "Supervised visits. You, Marcus, or anyone you trust can be present when I spend time with the children." The proposal was more reasonable than anything Derek had offered before. "We can think about it," said Rebecca. "But it has to be gradual and the children have to agree." "Of course. And at the first sign of aggression or drinking, the deal is off," added Marcus. "I accept those conditions." After Derek left, Marcus and Rebecca talked about the situation. "Do you believe he really changed?" asked Rebecca. "I don't know, but he seemed different today. Less aggressive, more humble." "I thought so too." "What do you want to do?" "I think we can give him a chance, but only if the girls want to and with a lot of supervision. What if he's lying about the treatment? Then we'll find out soon and cut off contact for good. And you? How do you feel about Derek possibly being part of Edward's life?" Rebecca looked at the baby sleeping in her arms. If he really changed and can be a present and responsible father, it would be good for Edward to know his biological father. But he will grow up knowing that you are the father who actually took care of him. What do you mean? Marcus, you were present at the birth. You took care of me throughout the pregnancy. You will be here for every stage of his life. Biologically, he may be Derek's son, but in his heart, he is your son too. Marcus felt a deep emotion hearing those words. What if Derek doesn't accept my presence in Edward's life? Then he'll have to choose between accepting our family as it is or not being part of it. That night they talked with Sarah Grace and Lily about Derek's visit. Daddy wants to visit us from time to time, explained Rebecca, but only if you want to, and Marcus or I will always be there. Sarah Grace and Lily exchanged uncertain looks. He won't yell at us anymore? Asked Lily. He promised he wouldn't, and if he yells, he'll have to leave right away. And he won't try to take us away from home? Asked Sarah Grace. No. You'll keep living here with us. Then it's okay, said Sarah Grace, but just a little bit at a time. Just a little bit, agreed Marcus. 2 weeks later, Derek returned for his first supervised visit. He brought simple gifts for the girls, small dolls he had bought at a cheap toy store, and behaved completely differently than before. Hi, girls, he said softly. Did you miss your dad? Sarah Grace and Lily were shy at first, but gradually began to interact with him. Derek played with them in the backyard for 2 hours, always under the watchful eyes of Marcus and Rebecca. When it was time for him to leave, the girls said goodbye politely, but without great displays of affection. It was clear it would take time for them to trust him again. How was it? Asked Marcus after Derek left. Strange, said Sarah Grace. He seemed different. Different how? Calmer. He didn't yell or get mad about anything. Did you enjoy playing with him? It was nice, said Lily. But I like playing with you more, Marcus. It's okay to like playing with both, said Marcus. Derek is your biological father, but I'm part of your family too. You won't leave if Daddy keeps visiting? Asked Sarah Grace worriedly. Never. This is my place with you. The regularity of Derek's visits gradually increased, first once a month, then every 2 weeks, then weekly. Throughout this period, he maintained calm and respectful behavior. Marcus noticed he was developing complex feelings about the situation. On one hand, he was happy to see that Derek was really trying to be a better father. On the other, he felt a twinge of jealousy when he saw the girls starting to become attached to their biological father again. It was Emily who helped him process these feelings during one of her visits. Marcus, she said, as they walked around the property, you seem worried about something. It's about Derek and the girls. What specifically? I'm afraid that when they get attached to him again, they won't need me anymore. That makes sense. It's a natural worry. But I also feel selfish for thinking that way. If Derek has really changed, the girls deserve to have their biological father present. Marcus, can I tell you something about my experience? Of course. When I was a child and you disappeared, my mother remarried when I was 10. Marcus stopped walking, surprised. She got married, I didn't know that. To a man named Richard, a good guy who tried to be a father to me. And how did you feel about that? At first I completely rejected it. I thought if I accepted him as a father figure, it would be a betrayal of you. And later? Later I realized that accepting Richard's affection didn't diminish what I felt for you. They were different feelings for different people. What happened to him? He's still part of my life. I don't call him Dad, but he's an important person. He helped me through my teenage years, paid for my college, gave me emotional support when I needed it. Marcus processed this information. And do you think the girl's situation with Derek and me could be similar? I think so. They can love you both in different ways, for different reasons. Do you think I should support their relationship with Derek more? I think you should support whatever is best for them, without worrying about your own fear of loss. And if they choose to stay with Derek? Marcus, you've already proven yourself to be a present and reliable father. That isn't lost overnight. The conversation with Emily helped Marcus relax about the situation with Derek. He began actively supporting the visits and even suggested activities Derek could do with the girls. 3 months after the supervised visits began, Derek made a surprising request. Marcus, Rebecca, he said, after an afternoon of playing with the children, Can I talk to you about something? Of course, said Rebecca. I want to formally apologize for everything I did in the past. I know I hurt you, especially you, Rebecca, and I know I scared the girls more times than I can count. We appreciate the apology, said Marcus. But more important than apologizing, I want to propose an arrangement. What kind of arrangement? I want to formally relinquish custody of the girls. Marcus and Rebecca were surprised. What do you mean? I want you to have full legal custody of them, and I want Marcus to be able to adopt them officially if he wants to. Marcus felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. Derek, are you sure about this? Asked Rebecca. I am. During these months visiting them, I've realized you are their true family. They feel safe here, they're happy, they have stability. And you? I can keep visiting as an uncle, as a family friend. But I'm not capable of being the father they deserve, even with treatment. Why this decision? Because true love sometimes means letting go of what we think are our rights to do what's best for the people we love. Marcus was too emotional to speak. Marcus, Derek continued, do you want to adopt the girls officially? More than anything in the world, Marcus finally said. Then let's arrange the paperwork. That night, after the children went to sleep, Marcus and Rebecca talked about Derek's proposal. Do you believe he's being sincere? Asked Marcus. I think so. I saw something in his eyes today I'd never seen before. What? Maturity. Genuine love for the girls, which shows in wanting what's best for them, not what's easiest for him. And how do you feel about me officially adopting the girls? Happy. You're already their father, in fact. Now it would just be making it official. What about Edward? What about him? Would Derek relinquish his paternity too? I don't know. Maybe we should ask. The next day, they called Derek. Derek, said Marcus, yesterday you talked about giving up custody of the girls. What about Joachim? I thought about it all night, replied Paulo. I think it would be better for him too if you had full custody. Are you sure? I am. Joachim will grow up knowing you as his parents. It doesn't make sense for him to have to split loyalties or be confused about who his real family is. And you? I'll keep getting treatment, working on myself. Maybe one day when I'm truly recovered, I can be a positive presence in their lives as an uncle or family friend. Paulo, said Fernanda, thank you for doing this for the children. Thank you for taking such good care of them when I couldn't. 6 months later, the adoption papers were finalized. Roberto officially became the legal father of Ana Clara, Julia, and Joachim. It was one of the happiest days of his life. The ceremony at the courthouse was simple but emotional. Mariana came from Pozos de Caldas to be present, and even some neighbors showed up to celebrate. Roberto Santos, said the judge, do you accept all the responsibilities and privileges of being the legal father of these 3 children? I do, with all my heart. Ana Clara and Julia Santos Silva, the judge said to the girls. Do you understand that from today Roberto is officially your father? Yes, they answered in unison. And you want this? We do. When they left the courthouse, Ana Clara asked an innocent question that deeply touched Roberto. Roberto, are you our father forever now, even if we do something wrong? Forever, answered Roberto, picking her up. No matter what happens, no matter what mistakes you make, I will always be your father and I will always love you. Promise? I promise. That night there was a small party at the ranch to celebrate the newly official family. Mariana gave a speech that moved everyone. When I was a child, she said, holding Joachim in her arms, I dreamed of having a present father who would protect me, teach me things, give me unconditional affection. I didn't have that in my childhood, but seeing Roberto being that father for Ana Clara, Julia, and Joachim shows me that dreams sometimes come true in unexpected ways. How so? Asked Ana Clara. Now I have a present father who protects me, teaches me things, and gives me unconditional affection. It just took a little longer to happen. Roberto hugged Mariana, moved. And I now have the complete family I always dreamed of having, he said. A wonderful wife, children I love as if they've been mine from the start, and a daughter who gave me the chance to be the father I should have been from the beginning. Our family is the best family in the world, said Julia. It is, agreed Fernanda. And now it's official. A year after the adoption, life at the ranch had found a perfect rhythm. Roberto and Fernanda married in a small but beautiful ceremony, with the children serving as attendants and Mariana as the maid of honor. Joaquim was growing up surrounded by love and attention. Ana Clara and Julia became dedicated older sisters, always helping with the baby and teaching him new things as he grew. Mariana continued living in Poços de Caldas, but visited the family regularly. She started a relationship with a co-worker, a doctor named Felipe, who was warmly welcomed by the family. Paulo kept his promise to stay sober and continued therapy. He visited the children from time to time, but now as a family friend, not as a father figure. The children enjoyed these visits, but it was clear that Roberto was their emotional and practical father. One afternoon, as Roberto was teaching Joaquim, now 1 year old, to take his first steps in the backyard, Mariana arrived unexpectedly with special news. "Everyone," she said, gathering the whole family in the living room. "Felipe asked me to marry him." "Really?" shouted Sarah Grace, seriously, and I said yes. Marcus felt a wave of fatherly happiness. "Congratulations, daughter. I'm so happy for you." "And will you all come to the wedding?" asked Emily. "We wouldn't miss it for the world," said Rebecca. "Sarah, Grace, Lily, would you like to be bridesmaids?" The girls were thrilled at the prospect. "Will we get to wear beautiful dresses?" asked Lily. "The most beautiful dresses we can find." "And will Marcus walk you down the aisle?" asked Sarah Grace. Emily looked at Marcus with tears in her eyes. "If he wants to." "It would be the greatest honor of my life," said Marcus. Emily's wedding took place 6 months later, in a beautiful ceremony in Boulder. Seeing his daughter walking beside him down the aisle, radiant with happiness, was one of the most moving moments of Marcus's life. "Dad," whispered Emily when they reached the altar, "thank you for giving me the chance to have you in my life again. Thank you for forgiving me and letting me be your father again." Nathan received Emily from Marcus's hands with a warm smile. "Take good care of her," said Marcus. "I will, I promise." 2 years after Emily's wedding, the family welcomed another addition. Emily and Nathan had a daughter whom they named Grace, in honor of Sarah Grace. Marcus became a grandfather for the first time at 55, an experience he found even more moving than he had expected. "Grandpa Marcus," said Sarah Grace, now 10 years old, while holding her baby cousin. "Does Grace look like me when I was a baby?" "She does. All the girls in our family are beautiful." "And will I be a good big cousin for her?" "You'll be the best cousin she could ever have." That night, as the whole family gathered on the porch watching the sunset, Marcus reflected on the incredible journey his life had taken. 5 years earlier, he was an ex-convict with no home, no family, no prospects. Now he was a husband, father of 4, grandfather, owner of a thriving ranch and part of a large, loving family. "What are you thinking about?" asked Rebecca, noticing his thoughtful expression. "About how life can change completely when we least expect it." "For the better?" "Much for the better." "Do you have any regrets?" Marcus thought for a moment. "I deeply regret my past mistakes. But if those mistakes were necessary to bring me here, to this family, then perhaps they served a greater purpose." "Do you think your Uncle Edward knew all this would happen when he left you the ranch?" "I think he hoped. The letter he left talked about giving a second chance and about taking care of people who needed protection. But I don't think he imagined the family would be this big." "Sarah Grace," called Rebecca, "come here." Sarah Grace approached, carrying Edward, now 2.5 years old. "Yes, Mom? What do you think of our family?" "I think we're the happiest family in the world." "Why?" "Because everyone loves each other and nobody leaves." Marcus felt his eyes fill with tears at these simple but profound words. "Nobody is leaving," he confirmed. "This is our family forever." Emily, who was feeding Grace, looked at Marcus with a warm smile. "Dad," she said, "thank you for learning to stay. Thank you for teaching me it's never too late to start over." When the children went to sleep that night, Marcus stayed alone on the porch for a while, watching the stars and thinking about everything that had happened. He remembered Edward, the uncle he had barely known, but who had believed in the possibility of his redemption. He remembered the first days on the ranch, when everything seemed uncertain and complicated. He remembered the fear he felt of not being able to care for a family. Now, 5 years later, he knew for certain he had found his place in the world. He wasn't just the owner of that ranch. He was the patriarch of a family bound together by love, forgiveness, and the determination to build something beautiful together. The sound of footsteps pulled him from his thoughts. Rebecca approached and sat down beside him. "The children are all asleep," she said. "All of them?" "All of them. Even Grace, who Emily managed to get to sleep. A perfect night." "Marcus." "Yes?" "Are you happy?" Marcus looked at the house where his 4 children slept, at Emily and Nathan in the guest room with their granddaughter, at the woman beside him who had agreed to share her life with him. "Happier than I ever imagined I could be. Even knowing we still have challenges ahead." Edward growing up, the girls becoming teenagers, the responsibilities of the farm? Especially because of that, now I know I can face any challenge because I'm not alone. I have a family that supports me and is worth fighting for. And your regrets about the past? They're still there. They always will be. But now they don't paralyze me. They motivate me to be better every day. They sat in silence for a few minutes, listening to the night sounds of the farm. Crickets chirping, the wind in the trees, the creek running at the back of the property. "Rebecca," Marcus said finally. "Yes?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself. For giving me the chance to be a father to your daughters. For teaching me what a real family is. Thank you for saving us that day when you arrived here. I don't know what would have become of us if you hadn't shown up." Edward knew. Somehow he knew we needed each other. "Do you think he's proud of what we've built here?" Marcus looked toward the small headstone in the family cemetery, visible in the moonlight. "I'm sure he is." The next morning, Marcus woke before everyone else, as was his custom. He made coffee, checked on the animals, and stood watching the sun rise over the mountains. It was a ritual he had developed in recent years, these quiet moments of gratitude at the start of each day. Moments to reflect on the blessings he had and to prepare to be the best husband, father, and grandfather he could be. When he returned to the house, he found the whole family awake and getting ready for another day. Sarah Grace was helping Lily pick out clothes. Edward was playing with his toys on the living room floor. Emily was changing Grace's diaper. Nathan was making breakfast, and Rebecca was organizing the girls' school backpacks. It was a scene of organized chaos, full of life, love, and purpose. "Love." "Good morning, family," said Marcus, kissing each person as he passed by them. "Good morning, Dad," the children replied in chorus. "Good morning, love," said Rebecca. "Good morning, Daddy," said Emily. "Good morning, Marcus," said Nathan. And Grace, the youngest in the family, looked at him with her big, curious eyes and gave a toothless smile that melted her grandfather's heart. "Good morning, Princess," he whispered, picking her up. As the family gathered around the table for breakfast, Marcus had a moment of clarity about the meaning of everything he had lived through. His journey hadn't just been about his own redemption. It had been about learning that families aren't defined just by blood ties, but by daily choices of love, care, and commitment. It had been about discovering that it's never too late to change, to ask for forgiveness, to start over. It had been about understanding that the mistakes of the past don't define who we can choose to be in the future. And most of all, it had been about learning that love has the power to heal the deepest wounds and build bridges across the widest chasms. "Marcus," said Sarah Grace, now 12 years old and becoming a young teenager, "can you teach me to drive the tractor today? Aren't you a little young for that?" "I'm almost an adult." "Almost an adult," laughed Marcus. "All right, I can teach you the basics, but only with supervision." "I want to learn too," said Lily. "And me," shouted Edward, who was now 3 years old. "You'll have to wait until you're a little older," said Marcus, laughing. "That's not fair," complained Edward, pouting. "Life isn't always fair, little one," said Marcus, picking him up. "But it's always an adventure." "What kind of adventure?" "The best kind, the adventure of being part of a family that loves each other." Grace babbled something incomprehensible that sounded like general approval of the situation. "Seems like she agrees," said Emily, laughing. After breakfast, while the older children got ready for school, Marcus sat on the porch with Edward and Grace, teaching the boy to name the colors of the flowers in the garden and letting the baby safely explore the world around her. It was a morning like many others, but Marcus never failed to appreciate the beauty of the family routine. Every ordinary day was a gift. Every simple moment was a blessing. Rebecca joined them after finishing tidying the kitchen. "What are you thinking about again?" she asked, noticing Marcus's contemplative expression. "How lucky I am." "Why?" "For having a second chance. For having found you all. For getting to see these children grow up. For being loved despite all my flaws." "Marcus Carter," said Rebecca, kissing his forehead. "You deserve all the happiness you have. You worked very hard to get here. I couldn't have done it alone. No one does anything alone. That's why families exist. Our family is special. It is, but not by accident. It's special because each of us chooses every single day to be part of it, to care for it, to protect it." Marcus looked at Edward trying to catch a butterfly, at Grace crawling on the lawn, at Rebecca beside him with her belly just beginning to swell again. Yes, another baby was on the way. "Rebecca," he said suddenly. "Yes?" "Thank you for letting me be part of your family." "Marcus, dear, it's not my family. It's our family. And it always has been from the first day you decided to stay." Marcus nodded, finally understanding that she was right. It wasn't a matter of being accepted into someone else's family anymore. It was a matter of building a family together, brick by brick, day after day, choice after choice. "And now we're going to have one more member," he said, placing his hand tenderly on Rebecca's still small belly. "It's going to be an even bigger family. Do you think we can handle it?" "I'm sure we can. We have experience now." "And help," added Marcus, looking at Emily, who was approaching with Nathan. "Dad," said Emily, "Nathan and I are thinking of moving closer to here." "Really? Really? We want Grace to grow up near family, and I can transfer my work to the hospital in this region. And I can open a clinic in town," added Nathan. "That would be wonderful," said Rebecca. "Would there be space for you here on the property?" asked Marcus. "We could build a small house in the back," suggested Emily. "Close enough to be part of the daily routine, but far enough to have our privacy." "Sounds perfect to me." 6 months later, the small house at the back of the property was ready. It was a simple but cozy building with 2 bedrooms, a living room integrated with the kitchen, and a porch with a view of the mountains. Emily, Nathan, and Grace moved in on a sunny Saturday with the help of the whole family. Seeing his daughter living just a few yards away, but with her own house and her own family, gave Marcus a feeling of completeness he hadn't known was missing. "Now, our family is truly complete," he said to Rebecca, as they watched Emily organizing her belongings in the new house. "Almost complete," corrected Rebecca, placing her hand on her now noticeably rounded belly. "That's true. We're still waiting for this one to arrive. Or this one. Do you have a preference?" "No, I just want them to be healthy and happy." "They will be both. With a family like ours, it's impossible not to be." The baby was born 3 months later, on a quiet spring morning. It was a girl who was given the name Hope, a name Marcus had suggested in honor of the feeling that had permeated their entire journey of rebuilding. Hope Carter came into the world surrounded by love, with 4 older siblings eager to meet her. An experienced and caring mother, a devoted father, an adult sister who was also a nurse, a brother-in-law who was a doctor, and a baby cousin who would be her playmate. "Hello, Hope," whispered Marcus when he held his daughter for the first time. "Welcome to our crazy, wonderful family." The baby opened her eyes and stared at him curiously, as if assessing the world she had entered. "I think she approves," said Rebecca, laughing. "Of course she approves," said Sarah Grace, now 13. "She's lucky to be born into the best family in the world." "The best family in the world," agreed Lily, who was 10. "The best," shouted Edward, now 4 and full of energy. Grace, then a year and a half old, babbled something that everyone interpreted as general approval. Emily watched the scene with tears in her eyes. "Dad," she said, "you did it. You built the family you always dreamed of having." "We did it," corrected Marcus, "all of us together." 2 years after Hope's birth, the Carter family had completely settled into their routine. Marcus had expanded the farm's activities, including a small production of handmade furniture that he sold in town. Rebecca had opened a small homemade sweets business that operated from their own kitchen. Emily worked at the regional hospital, and Nathan had opened a successful clinic. The children were all growing up healthy and happy, Sarah Grace becoming a responsible and intelligent teenager, Lily developing a special talent for music, Edward showing an interest in mechanics and repairs, Hope taking her first steps, and Grace becoming a curious and cheerful child. It was a Sunday afternoon, with the whole family gathered for the traditional lunch, when Sarah Grace made an observation that touched Marcus deeply. "Marcus," she said, now 15 and a beautiful, mature young woman, "do you remember when you first arrived here? I remember it like it was yesterday. I was very afraid of you. I know, I don't blame you. But you know what I was thinking today? What? That you didn't come here by accident. You came exactly when we most needed a real father. And I came exactly when I most needed a real family. So it all worked out in the end. It all worked out." Lily, now 12, joined the conversation. "Marcus, can I tell you a secret?" "Of course. Sometimes I forget that you're not our biological father. To me, you've always been our real father. To me, you've always been my real daughters too." Edward, now 6, interrupted the conversation with a question typical of his age. "Marcus, when I grow up, can I live here forever and take care of the farm with you?" "If that's what you want, of course you can. And can I teach my kids how to make furniture like you teach me?" "Yes, you can." "That's so cool. We're going to be a family forever and ever." Hope, now 2, didn't fully understand the conversation, but she clapped excitedly whenever anyone spoke, making the whole family laugh. "And you, Grace?" asked Marcus to his 4-year-old niece. "Want to be part of our crazy family?" "I already am," she replied with the simple logic of children. "Everyone here loves me, and I love everyone here." Emily picked up her daughter. "Grace is right. Love is what defines a family, not roles or rules." Nathan, who had integrated perfectly into the family, added, "And you are proof that families can form in unexpected ways and become even stronger because of it." Marcus looked around the table. Rebecca by his side, pregnant again with their 5th child, the 4 children who were his heart's children, Emily and Nathan with Grace, all gathered around the food they had prepared together, talking, laughing, making plans for the future. It was exactly the life he had dreamed of having when he was young, before making the wrong decisions that took him away from everything that mattered. It had taken decades. He had made terrible mistakes, hurt people he loved, lost precious years, but he had finally arrived where he always wanted to be. "Everyone," said Marcus, standing up to make a toast, "I want to say thank you." Everyone looked at him attentively. "Thank you for teaching me that it's never too late to start over. Thank you for showing me that love can heal any wound. Thank you for giving me the chance to be the man, the husband, the father I always wanted to be. Thank you for teaching us that families can form in any way, as long as they are built with love," replied Rebecca. "Thank you for showing me that real parents are the ones who stay and care, not just those who share the same blood," said Sarah Grace. "Thank you for teaching me how to do things with my own hands," said Lily. "Thank you for playing with me every day," said Edward. "Thank you for carrying me when I'm tired," said Hope, who was learning to speak in full sentences. "Thank you for being the best grandpa in the world," said Grace. "Thank you for giving me such a wonderful family to be part of," said Nathan. "And thank you, Daddy, for learning how to stay," said Emily, with tears in her eyes. Marcus felt as if his heart would burst with gratitude and love. "So it's decided," he said. "We'll keep being a crazy and wonderful family forever." "Forever!" all the children shouted at the same time. "Forever!" confirmed Rebecca, kissing him. "Forever," agreed Emily. "Forever," said Nathan. And so on a sunny Sunday afternoon, surrounded by all the people he loved most in the world, Marcus Carter understood that he had finally found his place in the universe. He wasn't just the owner of a ranch in the mountains. He wasn't just an ex-con who had managed to rebuild his life. He was Marcus Carter, husband, father, grandfather, patriarch of a family they had chosen to build together, brick by brick, day after day, choice after choice. And this family, formed in unexpected ways, but united by the deepest love, was living proof that it is never too late to start over, never too late to choose love over fear, and never too late to build something beautiful from the ashes of what was once broken. Marcus's story had begun with abandonment, error, and loss, but it ended with love, family, and hope. And that, he knew, was the best story he could have written with his life. End of story. Now tell us, what did you think of this story of new beginnings and forgiveness? Do you believe Marcus made the right decisions in welcoming Rebecca and the girls? And Emily, did she manage to find the peace she was looking for by forgiving her father? Leave your honest opinion in the comments. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional stories like this one. Thank you very much for your company.